in this demonstration, I'm going to talk about how to paint dark animals, or anything dark really. The first thing I'd say is, with your photograph, is make sure that you've saturated it as much and as much as you can, just so you can see the colours a lot easier. Quite often in the dark animal, there'll be a lot of dark blues and purples, sometimes even some pinker colours. So you can see here on the pale sections of the nose that it's like a pale blue grey, and then there's a lot of blue in here. So it's really important to kind of really accentuate those colours, as well as to make the most out of the lighter tones and the darker tones. So that's the other thing I'd really emphasise, is, as usual, about seeing the shapes. So seeing the shape here of light, even around here, and then these mid-tones around here, and then these darker shadows down there. So very little of the dog is actually black. In fact, if I was painting this, the only black bits I would be doing would be the nostrils, inside the eyes, and possibly just a touch of black around these areas, maybe a little bit there. So I would still use 3 colours. For a dog like this dark, I probably wouldn't use manganese blue hue. The reason being, it takes a long time to get it to go as dark as you want. So I would use either something like Winsor Blue, green shade, or Phthalo turquoise. You're still using the 3 colour system, but more and more, to be honest, I'm using these darker blues because I can almost get black. And they do have the advantage that they're transparent as well, which means you're less likely to get, a build-up of thick mud-like consistency in your colours. So I'm just going to very quickly map out a section of the dog. I think I'll just try the ear, to be honest, and just show you the kind of colours that I'd be mixing. So I've chosen the ear because, to be honest, it's indicative of the rest of the dog. It's the same colours all the way through, apart from the eyes. So we'll go for the ear. I'm just going to sketch out a rough shape. Now, whether I'm gridding, tracing, drawing freehand, I will always locate and draw those shifts in tone as well. So I'm seeing a dark area there. There's another passage of dark area kind of here, a little bit there. Unfortunately, the ear's kind of cut off on my photograph, but I think the ear kind of goes like that, and a section that goes down like that, and it's a soft corner. What I'm going to do as well, actually, I'm going to incorporate a little bit of the forehead, because the forehead has got a paler colour in it, which is just as important. So I'm just going to quickly draw this pale shape, and that comes about there. So that pale shape is quite big, actually. It's kind of goes through most of that there, and it kind of goes down like that. So yeah, I'll incorporate that because it's a useful colour to mix. So first of all, I'm going to make this light colour that's here. So it's kind of a neutral grey. So I'm just going to start with a bit of purpley colour, and then desaturate that with a tiny bit of yellow. It's going to go green in a minute, so I'll have to add a little bit of pink in the mix, bit of yellow, and it needs to be pinker than that. bluer than that. Oops, nearly too much. It's really strong, this stuff. I think actually, yeah, that's going to be very similar to this colour here when there's enough water on it. Next, I will mix this kind of colour. It's like a blue. So this is, as I said, this is Winsor Blue green shade. It's quite a nice versatile colour. It's really good to get the equivalent to ultramarines very quickly. I always used to try with manganese blue hue and it took forever. So I'm just warming it up with a little bit of magenta. And then I'm just going to desaturate it. Actually, I say that, I don't think I will. That's quite nice. But I will make it more watery because it's very bright. Actually, I will desaturate it. Sorry, I'm dithering here. I'm just going to put a tiny bit of effectively orange, you know, yellow and magenta in it, just to knock it back a little bit, just to grey it. You could just put a bit of black in it really, but this will do the same thing. Yeah, I'll just push that back a little bit so it's not too bright and garish. Okay, so I'm going to put my lightest colour on first, which is this area. So I'm going to just scoop that up. It needs to be very watery, this bit here. Even more watery than that, and I'm going to pick up a bit of pink as well. Oops. So I would be going for this kind of tone along the top of the head. Really, really light. And then here as well. These kind of colours. I'm just looking at this here. Almost to just pure water, right on the edge of the dog. It might dry just a little bit lighter. I don't normally use this paper. This is it is cotton, but it's I think it's 200 GSM. Let me just check. It is made by Magnani 1404, 100% cotton, and it's 300 GM. But I certainly know with the very thick stuff I use, the 638, it lightens up by about 2 shades. So we'll see what happens with this one. Okay, now the lightest shade I can see in here is kind of like about that kind of shade. So I'm going to drop that in first of all. And this is exactly how I would approach a painting. I would colour the whole of this in, because if everything is at least this light. Unfortunately, it is all kind of like one colour. I normally try and find different colours, but it's kind of like all one colour. But there is a tiny hint of greenish colour towards the top, a bit more turquoisey, that actually pinker than that I can drop on. Just so there's a bit of variation. And then just feed that into there. And then down. I just added some water there because I want the bottom of that ear to be lighter. Okay, I'm just touching that to see how dry it is. So I'm going to make up some thicker stuff now. So I'm deliberately getting rid of the water on my brush. And I'm going to make up something thick here. A bit of blue, a bit of pink to warm it up. And I'll probably go straight for black because I'm after an indigo. That kind of colour. Now, it might already have dried too much. So I don't use this paper a lot, but we'll have a look. Oh no, it's okay. So what I'm looking for here are soft edges. So I would just drop some little soft edges on here. And again, I'm just wiping the excess off here so I can just guide a few more in there. It's a bit bright, that is. It needs knocking back with a bit of black. But best to be too bright than too desaturated, because you can always knock the brights back, but it's difficult to get the brights once you've lost them. I'm just getting a little bit of, I don't know, wishy-washy colour. Now the timing is important in this, on this bit. If it's too wet, it's going to fuzz too much. It's too clean, that is. Let me just mucky that up a bit. Yeah, if it's too wet, it's going to fuzz too much. So you're really kind of like taking it gently, just working out your timing here. I'm always after soft edges. Really, through most of the process. It's only right at the end I'm after the darker, more desaturated, sharper edges. Just put that there. Then that's the rest of his face there. So I'll just quickly, I'm just over here. Okay, and then whilst that's damp, I can actually get some darker black into that. So blue, darker blue, sorry, I should say. So here you could start feeding this in if it's still damp. It's dried actually, not to worry, not to worry. If it has dried, it's not the end of the world. You can just loosen it up with a little bit of water. So you're still getting a bit of a soft edge there. And just over here. And then you'd further kind of go in with blacker and blacker and blacker where you need to. This would then go blacker into here. Right, this is about ready to do something with now. So it's damp, which is a really nice stage to start getting some darker, pastier colours in. So we don't want it to be too garishly blue. So I'm going to calm it down with a bit of pink. And you could either put orange into that, the complement, or you could to make it kind of more indigo-ish, or you could just pop a bit of black in. Now what I'm going to do is go again fairly gingerly. And just start kind of getting some darker, thicker shapes in here. Don't know why I've left that bit there. So this isn't black at the moment, it's kind of like a dark blue. So I'm really just building up those tones. I'm just doing really just a series of dots and dashes. I'm squinting so that I can see where the darks are. It's probably too wet there to do much, that section there, so I'll have to leave it for a bit. And I'm just making little marks going up the ear. Get some colour on that. Just darkening those tones really. And you've got a choice here. You could either, if you were putting, I can't do much with that, which is why I'm leaving it. When it comes to these areas and you've got little marks, like, I'm just going to make this bigger. These kind of little marks, you've got a choice. You can either do it on dry paper, like this, and then dissipate it with, I'll just make this bigger, and dissipate it with water. Or you can wet the page again and just drop your marks on when it's kind of semi-damp. I tend to be honest, go on dry and then just dissipate it with water, just to get rid of the hard edges. and that's where the ear starts. I'm just getting myself a little bit of darkish blue. Now that's a definite hard edge there. You want that hard edge where the ear is. It's a bit of a bumpy line kind of going down. Right, this is probably ready now for another layer while it's damp. So we've got this blue mix, a bit of pink into it, a bit of black. Again, just go gingerly, using the point of my brush to kind of start getting some darks in. Could get away with going a bit thicker and darker than that. Maybe a bit lighter and bluer. So quite often I will adjust on the page if I haven't got it right. Now this is going to look odd because it's just an ear, quite an abstract thing, but it's going dry there. So I'm just going to get some wet blue and just kind of loosen that up a little bit. I never used to give much attention to edge control, meaning soft edges, hard edges. But actually I realise it's probably one of the more, well, it's probably one of the most fundamental things to making a painting work. Otherwise, fur just looks plonked on if you haven't layered up your soft marks first. And then we can get a nice bit of blue on that. I want to go a little bit thicker now because we're going darker. We need to combat any damp that's there. Now this is dried. You can see it's dry because there's hard edges, so it's not a problem, but you do have to dissipate it with a bit of water. And just keep the movements nice and fast and nice and loose. Try and allow some of the lighter shades to pop underneath. That's pretty crucial to stop your paintings looking overworked or muddy. Get some of those beautiful undercolours coming through. It's getting a bit dark. And then there's a dark section under here. Now we can probably go a little bit darker actually, so again just a bit of blue-black. This is still quite damp. Just using the edge of my brush. In fact, that's dark, that should be all dark there. Now that's getting so damp that actually I'm doing this and it's not doing any good. So at that point, you just best to leave it if that happens. Otherwise, it just becomes one big pool of colour. This might be the same over here as well. Yeah, it's just not, it's not doing anything at all. If that happens, just leave it. It's difficult to leave it sometimes because you just want to get it done. But just leave it. Probably about, I don't know, 5 minutes or so, depending on your climate. Now I've just turned this way round because that's got to dry anyway, and I just want to do a few details on here really, you know, how I would finish this section of the forehead off. If there were things in the wrong place, like, you know, a couple of these bits have spread too far, you can always give them a wiggle with the brush. Generally speaking, it does depend on your paper to a certain extent, and you can lift just with a bit of clean tissue. That one's filthy. A bit of clean tissue. You can kind of like lift unwanted marks back off. You can never get rid of the staining, but you can lift a lot of it off. Now remember, you are seeing this as an abstract thing. It's not really going to look like anything particularly, but hopefully this is going to give you the idea. And I just normally just do little lines just to represent these few hairs that are here, just so it's not a big sea of blankness. And then we can go in a bit darker there in a minute. So let's get some dark. Again, I'm going in dry, so I would then loosen that up with a bit of water, like so. Let's just spin it back round again. I've just dried it with a hairdryer. I don't normally paint on this kind of paper because, to be honest, I can't be bothered to stretch it, which is why I use 638 GSM, so you can see it's cockled a little bit, but it's fine for a demonstration. But what has shown up is the fact that look how pale it's gone compared to how dark we're trying to get, okay? So I'd say it's gone lighter by about 2 tones, so that's fine. But what I've got to do now is go over with another glaze, and actually that's the nice thing about this Winsor Blue green shade. Yeah, Winsor Blue green shade. It because it's transparent, you don't end up with it getting really muddy and horrible. I think if you were layering up this dark with manganese blue hue, you might find that it starts to go a bit thick and gunky. Right, so do I need to be that bright? No, not really. Just make it a bit darker, a bit grubbier. Okay, so I'm just going to go over now with this, almost like a glaze. Where it needs to go lighter, I will loosen it with some water, just a little bit. Don't want it to end up too soggy. Got a little bloom there. That was where it was pooling with water, and I was putting more, attempting to put more marks in. And then down here, and that's kind of brightened it all right back up again. And in a minute I'm going to drop some more darks into that, just to get it darker again, because it is a black dog at the end of the day. I don't want it to be a blue dog. Okay, right, now let's get the blue again. Mix it with some of the magenta and a little bit of the black. Again, I don't want hard edges, I just want them to be quite nice and soft. That's why I'm going kind of like creamy into wet, really. Get some of those marks on. Just going to soften this edge. Now the timing's really important here. If I go in too early, it's going to just splurge again. So I'm just going to go in quite gently here. I'm going to create some marks. That's better. I'm getting some definition now. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm getting some definition between the marks. It's difficult to film because it's shiny and wet, but you'll get to see when it's dry. Now, normally, to stop me fiddling like I am kind of beginning to do now, I would normally work on a different part of the dog, because the problem is you just end up overworking an area until it, you know, if I carry on working into this now, it's just going to go really, really blurred, and that's no use at all. So I would really be working on different sections of the dog right now. If you do put in an area that's too dark, like I have a little bit there, just get your brush and then get rid of the excess paint like this and gently lift it out. Now you can use a standard brush, or you can use a lifting brush as well. Just see if I've got one. I think I have. This one's by, it's called an Eradicator by Billy Shoal. It kind of like lifts things out with more precision. I'll just show you the label. Very expensive for what it was, to be honest, but it's quite useful. You can see there how it's lifting this little area out. Great for like leaves and stuff. Trying to get this, I don't know what the word is. I'm going to say the spines, I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, that might end up going back to blue again. So you can always give it a bit of a dab with your tissue as well. Wouldn't mess too much with this, to be honest. I mean, there isn't an awful lot of information in that ear, to be honest. But I think that's roughly the ear done. So yeah, I hope that was useful. I know it looks very blue, but actually you've got to bear in mind that when the whole dog is done and the eye is done, in fact, if I just put the two together, you'll see it is actually quite blue anyway, but it will read right when the whole of the dog is done. I hope you found that useful.